Clemson's monster in the middle, Peter Woods, is an elite defensive line prospect and is prepared to dominate college football in 2025.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. Guys, we're going to the interior defensive line of summer scouting, starting with the big dog himself, big cat, however you want to call him, Peter Woods with those Clemson Tigers. We're going to go down to Alabama, Tim Keenan III, and then Aaron Graves, a.k.a. I call him the Grave Digger, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But let's start with Peter Woods with Clemson, 6'3", 315 pounds. This is a grown man, if I've ever seen one, Keith, playing the interior defensive line's position. A grown man who's a true junior at that. No red shirt year. He's played both freshman and sophomore years. Again, 6'3", 315. Statistically, 4 QB hits, 3 sacks, 13 pressures per PFF on what they charted him for. When I watched the tape of this dude, Keith, he's so disruptive and, like, how to put this?
Physically dominant.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And it's also because I believe they changed defensive coordinators at Clemson. Wes Goodwin, who I wasn't the biggest fan of, he's gone.
Yep. He's
gone. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of happy simply for Peter Woods. He was aligning Peter Woods everywhere. Don't get me wrong, Peter Woods won from everywhere. He won at one tech, 2-eye, 3 tech, 5 tech. He was standing up as an edge rusher and still won. But for him going into the NFL, really polishing his game completely as that 3 tech, that interior defensive lineman, is where what we want to see in 2025. He's heavy-handed. He plays with good pad level. He's strong. This guy anchors in the run game, handles double teams well. But then the pass rush ability is there. And, like, to watch him, the reps I did see him playing on the edge, I'm like, this is not right. Like, you shouldn't be able to do these type of things at 6'3", 315 pounds, the hand usage, the part in the Red Sea when they're trying to tackle and guard, trying to double team him, his ability to convert speed to power even off the edge. You know what I mean? We know he can walk guys back from an interior defensive line spot, but from the edge. And I would say this, Keith, we love Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan. If he was in last year's class, he is undeniably IDL1. Like, undeniable, like his ability, the athleticism, the run game stuff. Like, remember that game against Georgia, right? Like, they ended up losing that game. And I'll be honest with you, that was the game to me that let me know Georgia was not going to win it all, because Georgia wasn't dominant in that game. Clemson just didn't come to play in that game offensively. Georgia did what they could do, what they had to do, and got the dub. But I'm watching Peter Woods. I'm like, man, like they didn't really have an answer for him. It was one rep he's lined up at left defensive end. And the way he whooped that right tackle, I'm like, bruh, get out of here. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's one of those ones, Keith. Like, he's one of those elite prospects that, and I felt like last year, everybody came into the summer feeling like Mason Graham was an elite prospect. Then we get to draft season, his arm length, and this and that. And it was like, once we get to draft season, people nitpick everything about you. Yep. I don't know how much they're going to be able to nitpick about Peter Woods, because he is that darn good.
Yeah, I immediately went to that kind of lineage of Alabama defensive linemen, like when they were in their heydays, so like between 2010 and like 2015, like somewhere
Jonathan
around
Allens and all those.
No, literally, that was my comp for him, Jonathan Allen, right? That's why I was going to lead up to that part and say he reminds me of like a Jonathan Allen type, and very similar body. Just as far as height, weights, I think they both come in at 6'3", right around 300 pounds, right? Give and take. You know how many burgers they eat that day, right? Somewhere in the same category.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you, DP. When I watch him, I see complete dominance from a defensive lineman, and I know the nitpicking thing I think, DP, that's going to come with this is the sack production, right? Because I believe his freshman year he had 0. Then last year, which you pulled the stat up, I think it was 3 or 4 sacks.
Mhm.
But you have to look at that in context of opportunity, right? What he's
Yeah.
being asked to do, situations, right? Like you have to look at it from all of those perspectives, because I think we've gotten spoiled with a few defensive linemen, mainly Aaron Donald, right? Being able to provide sacks from the interior defensive line position. But traditionally, that wasn't the ideal position, right? Like that wasn't what they were asked for. That wasn't their responsibility to be able to get sacks. That's why you try to draft 2 edge rushers, right? Something like that. But I think you look at him as a 3-tech. I think it can be. I thought of Gerald McCoy and Ndamukong Suh. Like
Yep.
I think he can be one of those type of guys from the interior defensive line position where he can be the anchor of an entire defense.
Oh, 100%. And that was, it's crazy you mentioned the Ndamukong Suh. That was one of the names I was going to bring up, because I was like, I said, man, let me go back and look at the Ndamukong Suh's height, weight, build, stuff like that. And the Ndamukong Suh in the NFL was 6'4", 313. Well, Clemson has Peter Woods, and I saw him. I was kind of a little bit of a distance on the pro day, because he was on the farther end of the field, away from the practice, kind of just watching everything. But he's listed at 6'3", 315. So if he comes in and that checks out, I'm like, yeah, I could see that Ndamukong Suh comp landing pretty heavily for a guy like Peter Woods. And like, to your point, like, again, this is where we with WTF, watch the film, right? Not even just watch the film, is WTTF, watch and trust the film, because that's where you get to see the context. Like, you see him get in the backfield and the quarterback barely gets the ball out of their hands. You know what I mean? It's just like, that would, if the secondary held him just a millisecond more, and that quarterback didn't release this, oh, that's a sack, right? I've seen him get in the backfield multiple times, and also the attention he gets from opposing offensive lines. You know, so it's like, it's not, and it's crazy because like him and TJ Parker get the most attention, but you still got DeMonte Capehart. You got all these different guys on their defensive front that are really good players. But those are the top 2 dogs, and that's whenever they go to that duo of putting Peter Woods side by side with TJ, that's where they create so much problems, because now you shuffle and you slide your protection all the way to the left to take care of those 2, and then a good DC is going to send pressure from the right. So it's like, okay, cool, that's fine. I'm going to send pressure from the opposite side where you have less numbers, and I think that's where you look at the defensive coordinator this year. I forget his name. I forget who took over for him this year, but like they're really excited for what he's going to bring to this defense. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Wes Goodwin, just because I felt like if Brent Venables had some of these defenses, oh yeah, it would have looked like a total different thing, Keith. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think they lose to SMU. In that game, they didn't have an answer for him in that game, really. Like when he was lined up with that one tech, I was like, yeah, you might as well go ahead and like get that center guard trio and just triple team, because they really didn't have an answer for him. Yeah, this dude is a legit playmaker and just a dominant force, as you say, like the ability to create so much havoc that he creates on the interior defensive line. And I'm excited. Again, he can play defensive end. So if a team wanted to use him out there, don't get me wrong, he's not a fish out of water, but he's similar to what Walter Nolan said. I'm a 3-tech, 4-eye. That's how I view Peter Woods. Now, can you get him? Can he play 2-eye? Yeah. He's not bad against the run. He's not bad against double teams. He's strong. He's physical, all that. But I think if you reduce him and limit him to that one gap responsibility, he gets those one-on-ones. Yeah, that Jalen Carter effect, stuff like that, Keith, that's the type of player I think he can be at the next level.
Yeah, I agree. And in DP, I'll say this before we transition real quick, is that Peter Woods has the opportunity to be the best player in this class, like to come out and be the number 1 overall ranked player. Like it's that type of talent for him, and that's in a heavy quarterback class too. So be on the watch out for Peter Woods, because he could do a lot of things. DP, I talked about Alabama lineage, right? We're gonna talk about an Alabama interior defensive lineman coming up next, Mr. Tim Keenan. Talk about Tim Keenan coming up next.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO. Guys, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one single place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. And the one surprising thing I noticed when I started tracking my spending for my family is that we were using too much to get food and purchase things online. Now we cook more at home and we save more money. Take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Alabama defensive tackle Tim Keenan III, listed at 6'2", 325. Keith, he's built like those. He doesn't have the height of some of those interior defensive linemen we've seen from Bama, but he's that traditional kind of nose tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to run on this dude, it's like good luck to you. You know what I mean? This is truly like good luck to you because being at 6'2", low center of gravity, he plays with leverage, power run defender, hands filled with pop. He knows how to shock and shed blocks. His ability to anchor against the run. I like his motor too, Keith, because like this is a guy that chases plays down, similar to I didn't get a chance to mention, but Peter Woods did the same thing. These guys don't stop even if the ball's away from them. They trace back to the football. And when you got a 300+ pound individual that says, okay, I'm on the right hash, the ball's towards the left sideline, and I'm getting on my high horse and I'm trucking over there to get into the action. Those type, like you can't teach that type of motor and desire, Keith. Like that's type of stuff you are only really born with mentally. And from a passer standpoint, he had 3 sacks, 11 pressures. He didn't have any QB hits. But Keith, I like this tape. I like this tape overall. The power, the strength that he plays with. I was watching, what's it, USF? I think it was USF. I was watching that game to kind of see how he handled. That's a team that does create creative things in the run game with their QB power, read option, stuff that they run. And like that center, that poor center and guard, trying to block him and get hands on and then control him was half near impossible. Like when he's really he's 6'2", so he plays with a good pad level, but he fires off the ball well. He gets his hands into you, and he knows how to lock out, look for the ball, and then displace whoever's blocking him. This is a powerful dude, and I think he's going to be one of those kind of old school, a little bit throwback, prototypical 2-down defensive tackles. But man, those first 2 downs, he's going to be a star for you.
Yeah, 100%. And you kind of outlined it like properly, right? As far as him being probably when he comes in a 2-down guy, but he's going to plug holes, right? He's going to plug gaps. Like if you think about those Baltimore Ravens defenses, right? And just how important guys like Haloti Ngata was. You think about, what is it? Man, I'm missing this guy's name for the Steelers. He played the interior.
Casey Hampton?
Yes, that's exactly the name I was thinking about, and just how important he was for those Steelers defenses. So it's going to be one of those things where he's going to be a guy where you probably won't get the flash plays, but everybody on the defense will appreciate him, right? And it's one of those things where like even if the character checks out, right, like he can be the leader of your defense, and everybody respects what he does because there's so much two gap and there's so much taking on double teams. There's so much, like you talked about the relentless effort. And go back to your point, DP, and this was a coaching thing, right? And this is huge for me when I'm scouting film, is those effort plays, because that stuff translates, right? And everybody, and I go back to like Tyrann Mathieu and the Honey Badger, right? And it's his ability to make plays, but it's like he's always around the football. It's like, because he's always hustling, right? Like he's always giving his last effort. If you look at half of the fumbles that he recovered, during his time at LSU, it was him being around the football, right? Like just getting there. And you get around the football by full effort. I was always a guy that, and the football people listening, they know exactly what I'm talking about, the pursuit drills. If I had to teach pursuit drills, I didn't want you, right? Because this shouldn't be a effort thing. Like I shouldn't have to teach you what it means to have effort. You should play with your hair on fire every single time. And that's being completely honest. Yeah. Because what happens is I can teach you pursuit drills in practice, But in the game, you're going to revert back to whatever your habits are, right? And you talk about 11 hats to a football and all of the old cliches that people talk about. That comes from effort, and that you have to be mentally wired that way. It doesn't get taught, right? Like you just have to want it that bad.
No, 100%. When you brought up Casey Hampton, I went ahead and looked up on mockdraftable.com. I looked up his measurements. Casey Hampton was 6'1", 314 pounds. Tim Keenan II right now is listed at 6'2", 325. We'll get the verified stuff when we get to the combine. Another really good nose tackle, throwback nose tackle, Vince Wilfork, 6'1", 323. So he's body type wise, weight wise, height wise in the realm of some of the best pure nose tackles that we've seen in the NFL. Those guys that you had to commit 2 guys to on the interior defensive line. And I always say that. You brought up Haloti Ngata. What did Haloti Ngata and Tony Saragusa and those big dudes in Baltimore early in Ray Lewis's career, it allowed him to play free and just be the pure, just athletic specimen that he was, because now you get to flow to the ball, you get to attack downhill, you just get to stay clean. And I think that's such a, again, it's a passing league, Keith, and I feel like, yeah, we are noticing, we have to notice that the run game is starting to make its way back. Guys, history just repeats itself.
That's all it does.
You know
we back to DP. Listen, we back to baggy jeans, right? Like that's right. The end thing. Like I have my nephew, he's gonna tell me, yeah, you don't know about the baggy jeans. You got to wear the baggy shirts. I'm like, okay, let me just pull up a shirt from 2003, right? Like y'all the ones that switched it up. I like the baggy jeans, DP. Like they were a lot more comfortable for me. Like you go to the slim fit, you go to the tight jeans. I can't put my wallet in there. I can't put my phone. Now I gotta. Yeah, like it's so I was all for the baggy stuff. I'm gonna tell you this time, DP, they're not gonna trick me the next cycle, right? Because I've thought about this. It's crazy that you bring this up. This has been on my mind heavy. Is that next cycle when they go back to the tight jeans, I'm not switching, right? I'm just not switching. I'm
10 toes down.
I'm staying there. I'm not getting rid of my clothes. I gotta get now. I have to get my old clothes out of the attic. I had the Jabot jeans with the strap, DP.
I'm not. My God, man, you talking about a way back machine, the Jabots, baby. Listen,
I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore.
100 degrees outside, and we wore those Jabots like it was nothing. You know what I'm saying?
It was nothing, DP.
But
like
to your point though, history repeats itself. We seen the high top fade back in Kid and Play, came back. The starter jackets, it's worked its way back. Everything it transitions, man. So the run game and the fact that defense fronts have gotten so small, yeah, teams are going to keep punching you in the mouth because it doesn't matter how good that 220-pound linebacker can cover or whatever. When you got Derrick Henry, who's 240 pounds, ISO run game right at the gut. What is that 220 guy going to do against Derrick Henry? What's he going to do against Saquon Barkley? No, like he's not going to do as much as you think. Yeah, he might be really great dropping off in the coverage and picking off a quarterback, but when they play ball control in December and January where it's cold, like you need to have guys you need to have defensive linemen like Tim Keenan III, because it allows those guys to play their natural position and play their game. Because if you start getting these 315-pound interior offensive linemen climbing to that second level, those undersized, like basically they're safeties playing linebacker, those undersized linebackers are not going to be in for a good day. It's just not what you want. So you need to, I promise you guys, it may not be sexy. It may not be a sexy move or a sexy pick, but if your team in the 2026 NFL draft selects Tim Keenan III, be happy about it. Clap your hands about it, because DP and Keith told you from the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, this dude's going to help your defense.
100%. Dallas Cowboys, be listening. Dallas Cowboys, be listening.
Jesus.
But DP, we did Peter Woods at Clemson, traditional powerhouse. Tim Keenan at Alabama, traditional defensive line powerhouse. DP, we have one more coming down the pipeline. Aaron Graves, Iowa. I think you can call him a defensive line kind of powerhouse, right? We're going to talk about Aaron Graves. We listed at 6'4", 6'5", right around that 300 mark, long arms. We're going to get into him coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Sorry for being our every dayer. 6'4", 300-pound interior defensive lineman for those Iowa Hawkeyes. You know they're going to do one of two things. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to play defense.
Yep.
They're not going to score unless the run game scores. They're not going to throw the ball a lot. That's just the nature of the situation for them. Aaron Graves, and this was a guy that caught my eye during the college football season last year, and I nicknamed him the Grave Digger. This is a young man that had a very productive season last year, guys. 5 QB hits, 7 sacks, 14 total pressures. And some of the things I jotted down, Keith, of why I really like him, similar to, and it's kind of been a theme of the show. I love watching interior defensive linemen play with good pad level. Don't jack in the box me. Don't pop up like a jack in the box and expose your chest. He plays a good pad level. Love his leg drive at the point of attack, whether as a run defender, anchoring and then driving, or as a pure pass rusher. And then you think about the zone game. He has lateral agility to go against those zone run concepts. Being able to attack a gap, attack a lane, and get into the backfield, knife through. Doesn't allow those backside linemen to cut him off or whatnot, to reach block and turn and cut him off and seal him off. He showcases the quickness and agility and ability to get past guys in terms of the pass rush. He's not just a pure power rusher. He does a good job where he'll engage with power and then just displace a guy, right? And he has good hands. I like it the way he uses his hands. And he plays with a very high motor. The one thing I will say for him that I want to see him improve on is when guys do beat him in terms of punch timing, like interior offensive line get their hands into his chest, I want to see him just be able to shed quicker. I think he takes a little bit because he does try to counter with power. A good defensive line coach and pass rush coach, whatever, will teach you, hey, clear the hands, displace, knock those hands down. If you get one hand off of you, then you can get your hands on, reset, and you can start working. But other than that, man, I think this is a guy, again, 7 sacks last year. I believe he also had 3 forced fumbles calls. He caused 3 forced fumbles last year. Again, Iowa, unless you're watching them, you don't have a reason to watch them because they don't put up a lot of points. But man, I think this is one of those interior defensive linemen, Keith, that he's so good. I was watching him, I was like, man, he seems like a Steeler to me. Like, you know what I mean? With
is it the colors, DP? Was it the Iowa colors?
It might have been. It might have been that black and yellow. It might have been that. You know what I'm saying? They caught it. I'm like, man, I just feel like he would be a really good Steeler. Or him learning from Hayward over there and stuff like that. I'm like, man, he would have been a nice fit with that Steelers defense. But I just like what he brings. To me, this is a guy that, you tell me if you disagree, I think he could be a 3-down defensive tackle in the NFL because his ability to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought hybrid, but hybrid in the very best way. One of the guys I thought of, and I think he's a key piece of the Denver Broncos defense. I'm making sure I'm getting the name right.
I think I know where you're going with this. Yes, yep. Oh, I
thought of something like that, right? Where these guys, like, where his stat line will always be in that range, right? I think you said he had 7 sacks on the season last year. It would never be over 10, but it'll never be under 5, right? Somewhere between 5 and 10. A guy that's going to move up and down the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be a stand-up edge rusher for you. He can play anywhere from, like the 2-eye all the way out to the 5, just do different things like that, and provides versatility. And I think, you just think about some of these hybrid defenses. So like you said, the Steelers, the Ravens, some of those defenses like that run hybrid fronts. He would be perfect for those defenses. And he was another guy that I thought high motor grit, right? High motor grit, physicality. And like you said, just little things that he can clean up. But we see those guys translate to the NFL all of the time, right? You come to the NFL with high motor grit and you have size, you're usually going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, the Derek Wolfe call out, Keith, I think that's perfect. Derek Wolfe was that guy. He was so good against the run. He'll catch you slipping as a pass rusher. Yeah. You just look up and it's like, man, he was impactful today. Like he was in the backfield all day, whether it was against the pass with his power or as a run defender, and just getting tackles for loss, forcing tackles for loss. You know what I mean? Those assisted plays as a defensive tackle. Another guy that came to mind was like, especially if he kind of holds the line a little bit as a pass rush. I think Zach Allen, who's with the Denver Broncos right now, who spent, first 4 years of his career with the Cardinals. And this is a guy that, he's like 6'5", 285. And then we have Aaron Graves is at 6'4", 300. Right. So like he could be anywhere from 290 to 300 for all I know. You know what I mean? So I'm just looking at him like I could see that Zach Allen type of archetype for him as well. Because I think throughout Zach
Can
Allen's career, he's got like 25 sacks.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. Who would you prefer, him or Lucas Van Ness for your defense?
Oh, Aaron Graves.
Yeah,
Aaron Graves.
and
I know
asked
what
that
I'm doing with him.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I'm doing with him.
Yeah, no, and I asked that because obviously, Lucas Van Ness was right. He was a first-round pick. Yeah, first-round pick by the Packers. And highly talked about guy, right? Had the size, the length, all of those things. But if I'm remembering correctly, we had some of the same concerns, right? Just as far as just because you have the prototypical size, it doesn't put you out of the tweener box. Lucas Van Ness was still a tweener, right? Like, are you fast enough to rush the edge, or are you big enough to play interior defensive lineman from the perspective of, do you have enough mass, and should you do that? And I look at Aaron Graves, and I see a much more, and I always say this, right? A clear path of what you can do and can be in the NFL. Like, I don't have to, like, it's one thing to project you to the NFL, but then now I have to project what you're even going to play, right? Like, I would like to eliminate one of those two, right? And say, you know what? Like, at least I know what you're going to play. When I got to project,
and the bad thing about it was Lucas Van Ness was an interior defensive lineman when he came out of the draft.
Yeah,
like 5 tech, and then Green Bay says you're going to be stand-up edge rusher. And I'm like, why? Like, he didn't do this in college. And even if he did do it, his snaps weren't great doing it anyway.
No,
like,
it wasn't.
At least Aaron Graves, I know what he's going to be.
Yeah, he did do it in college. And like you said, to your point, it wasn't great. So that comes into the issue. But I will agree with you. Like, Aaron Graves, I'd rather take Aaron Graves because I can see exactly what he can be. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, guys, we're talking about USC Trojans wide receiver Jacoby Lane. They've had a kind of an exodus of receivers. About 2 or 3 guys left through the transfer portal, opening the door for him to be that dominant force for their offense. So we'll talk about him on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.